Amy Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she looked at the damaged fighter wing. She had been working on ships for 15 years now and had seen all kinds of battle damage. The hangar bay of the UES Horizon was her home away from home. She knew every bolt and every wire in these fighters. But this damage was different. This was something she had never seen before. Jake Morrison sat on a metal crate nearby, still wearing his flight suit. The young pilot looked tired and confused. He had just returned from a routine patrol mission near the Kepler 442 system. His Viper-class fighter had taken damage, but he could not explain how it happened. There were no enemy ships in the area, no plasma fire, no explosions, just this strange damage to his wing. Amy ran her scanner over the twisted metal. The readings made no sense. The wing had been fused at the molecular level. The metal looked like it had been melted and reformed, but not by any weapon she knew. Strange patterns covered the surface. They looked almost like writing, but from no language she had ever seen. "Tell me again what happened out there," Amy said to Jake as she continued her examination. Jake shook his head. "I was doing a standard patrol run. Everything was normal until I hit the outer edge of the system. My instruments started going crazy. All the readings were jumping around like mad. Then I felt this weird vibration through the whole ship." Amy nodded and kept working. She had pulled samples from the damaged area. Under the microscope, she could see tiny fragments of something that was not part of the original wing. These fragments glowed with a soft blue light. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Every few seconds, they would brighten and then fade back to their normal glow. "Did you see anything unusual out there?" Amy asked. "That's the thing," Jake said. "I did not see anything at all, but my sensors showed massive gravitational readings. Like something huge was there, but I could not see it. Then the readings just disappeared, and I found my wing was damaged." Amy frowned. She had been working with alien technology for years. The humans had been fighting the Zephyrian Empire for 3 years now. She knew their weapons and their ships. This was not Zephyrian technology. The molecular structure was completely different from anything in their databases. She called up the computer files on known alien species. Humans had made contact with 17 different alien civilizations over the past 50 years. She checked the records for each one. None of them had technology that could create this kind of damage. The fragments under her microscope were something entirely new. Captain Lisa Harper walked into the hangar bay. The tall woman had been commanding the UES Horizon for 2 years now. She was known for being calm under pressure and making smart decisions. Amy respected her greatly. "What do we have here, Rodriguez?" Captain Harper asked. Amy stood up and wiped her hands on her work clothes. "Something I have never seen before. Captain, the wing damage is not from any known weapon. These fragments are made of an unknown alloy. They seem to be responding to our presence." Captain Harper raised an eyebrow. "Responding how?" Amy pointed to the microscope display. "Watch the pulsing pattern. It gets faster when we get closer. The electromagnetic readings change too. It is like they are trying to communicate or scan us." Jake Morrison stood up from his crate. "Captain, I need to tell you something else. Ever since I got back from that mission, I have been having strange dreams. I see these huge cities that seem to exist in multiple dimensions, and there are beings made of pure energy trying to tell me something." Captain Harper looked concerned. "When did these dreams start?" "Right after the mission," Jake said. "They are getting stronger each night. I think whatever damaged my wing also did something to me." Amy continued her analysis of the fragments. She discovered they could manipulate gravity on a very small scale. They seemed to bend space and time around themselves. The technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. It was even more advanced than the most sophisticated Zephyrian systems they had captured. "Captain, I think we need to get the science team down here," Amy said. "This is way beyond my expertise. We might be looking at first contact with a completely unknown alien species." Captain Harper nodded. "I will call Dr. Walsh. But Amy, I want you to keep working on this. You have more practical experience with alien technology than anyone else on this ship. Your insights could be crucial." Amy felt a strange sensation as she looked at the fragments again. They were pulsing faster now, almost like they were excited. She had the odd feeling that they were studying her just as much as she was studying them. The blue glow seemed to reach out toward her, calling to something deep in her mind. "There is something else, Captain," Amy said. "I ran a full spectrum analysis on these fragments. They do not just exist in our normal space and time. They seem to phase in and out of reality itself. Sometimes they are solid, sometimes they are not quite there. It is like they exist in multiple dimensions at once." Jake Morrison walked over to look at the fragments. As he got closer, they began to pulse even faster. The blue glow became brighter and more intense. "They are reacting to me too," he said. "I can feel them in my head somehow." Amy made a decision. "Captain, I request permission to do a full analysis of these fragments. I think they were left for us to find. This was not random damage. Someone or something wanted us to discover this technology." Captain Harper considered this carefully. "Permission granted. But Amy, I want you to be very careful. If these fragments are some kind of first contact attempt, we need to handle this properly. And if they are dangerous, we need to know that too." As Amy went back to her work, she could not shake the feeling that her life was about to change forever. The fragments seemed to be waiting for something every time she touched them. With her tools, she felt a strange tingling sensation. It was like they were trying to connect with her mind. She began to wonder if humanity was ready for what they might find. The fragments held secrets that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe. But some secrets came with a price. Amy had a feeling that the price for this knowledge might be higher than anyone could imagine. The blue glow of the fragments continued to pulse in the darkness of the hangar bay, waiting for someone to unlock their mysteries. Dr. Kevin Walsh arrived in the maintenance bay within 3 hours of Amy's call. The chief science officer was a tall, thin man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent 20 years studying alien technologies from across the galaxy. Amy had worked with him many times before and trusted his expertise. "Show me what you have found," Dr. Walsh said as he set up his equipment. Amy led him to the damaged wing, where the fragments were still pulsing with their blue light. "The molecular structure is unlike anything in our databases. These fragments seem to exist in a state of quantum flux. They phase in and out of our reality at the subatomic level." Dr. Walsh examined the fragments under his portable scanner. His eyes widened as he saw the readings. "This is incredible. The technology appears to manipulate gravitational fields on a microscopic scale. They are literally rewriting the laws of physics in their immediate vicinity." Amy nodded. "That is what I thought too. But there is something else. I do not think these fragments are random debris. They seem to be components of a larger device. Someone wanted us to find them." Dr. Walsh ran more tests while Amy continued her own analysis. Together, they discovered that the fragments could generate small wormholes in spacetime. The technology could theoretically allow for faster-than-light travel without the dangerous side effects of human warp drives. It could also be used to create weapons that could tear apart enemy ships at the quantum level. "The implications are staggering," Dr. Walsh said. "This technology could revolutionize everything we know about space travel and energy generation." "But Amy, there is something troubling about these readings." Amy looked up from her work. "What do you mean?" These fragments are not just advanced technology. They are specifically designed to interact with human consciousness. The quantum signatures match the neural patterns of the human brain. It is as if they were made specifically for us. Jake Morrison had been listening to their conversation. That would explain the dreams I have been having, and the strange feelings I get when I am near them. It is like they are trying to tell me something. Dr. Walsh nodded thoughtfully. I think we need to contact security. This situation is becoming more complex than we initially thought. Commander Ryan Beck arrived an hour later with a team of security officers. The tough, experienced man had been head of security on the UES Horizon for 3 years. He was known for his thoroughness and his ability to find hidden threats. I need to review all of Morrison's flight data, Commander Beck said. If someone planted these fragments on purpose, there might be clues in his mission logs. Amy watched as Commander Beck and his team went through every detail of Jake's reconnaissance. Mission. The sensor data showed massive gravitational anomalies in the area where Jake had encountered the fragments. Something large had been there, something that had deliberately interacted with his fighter. There is no record of any ships in that area, Commander Beck said. But the gravitational readings suggest something the size of a small moon was present. Then it just vanished. Dr. Walsh looked concerned. That confirms my suspicions. Whatever left these fragments has technology far beyond anything we have encountered. They can cloak themselves completely from our sensors. Amy continued her analysis. While the security team worked, she made a disturbing discovery. The fragments were not unique to Jake's fighter. She accessed the maintenance records for other ships in the fleet and found similar reports. Small, unexplained damages with fragments of unknown materials. Each incident had been logged and forgotten. Commander Beck, Amy called out, I think you need to see this. She showed him the records she had found. Over the past 6 months, 17 different ships had reported similar incidents. Each time, the damage was minor, and the fragments were too small to be considered important. But when Amy combined all the data, a pattern emerged. These incidents are not random, Amy said. They are happening in a specific sequence. Each ship was chosen for a reason, and each fragment contains slightly different quantum signatures. Commander, Beck studied the data carefully. You are saying someone has been systematically testing our ships and crews? That is exactly what I am saying, Amy replied. And I think Jake's mission was the final test. These fragments are more active than the others. They are ready for the next phase of whatever plan is being carried out. Dr. Walsh made another discovery while analyzing the fragments. Amy, look at this. The fragments are not just responding to human consciousness. They are learning from it. Each time we interact with them, they become more sophisticated. They are adapting to our neural patterns. Jake Morrison suddenly grabbed his head and staggered backward. Something is happening. The dreams are getting stronger. I can see the beings who created these fragments. They are trying to show me something important. Amy rushed to help Jake while Dr. Walsh monitored the fragments. The blue glow was pulsing faster than ever before. The quantum readings were off the charts. Something was building to a critical point. They are called the architects, Jake said, his voice strained. They exist partially outside our normal space and time. They have been watching humanity for a long time. These fragments are a test to see if we are ready for something greater. Commander Beck stepped forward. Ready for what? Jake's eyes rolled back as he struggled to process the information flowing into his mind. Evolution? They want to help us evolve into something more than we are now. But there are others who want to stop us. The Zephyrians are not just fighting us for territory. They are fighting to prevent us from reaching our potential. Dr. Walsh looked at his readings with growing alarm. The quantum field is expanding. These fragments are preparing to activate something. Amy, I think we need to clear the hangar bay. But Amy could not move. The fragments were calling to her now, just as they had called to Jake. She could feel their consciousness reaching out to her mind. They were trying to show her visions of the future, a future where humanity spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians of consciousness itself. "I can see it," Amy whispered. "The architects have been seeding human space with their technology. They are preparing us for contact with them. But there is something else. The Zephyrians have been trying to find and destroy these fragments. They know what they represent." Commander Beck activated his communication device. "Bridge, this is security. We have a situation in the maintenance bay. I need to speak with the captain immediately." Captain Harper's voice came through the speaker. "What is your status, Commander?" "Captain, we have discovered that the fragments are part of a larger alien plan. Someone has been systematically testing our ships and crews, and we might not be the only ones who know about it." Amy felt the fragments pulse one more time, and then they went dark. The blue glow faded, and the quantum readings returned to normal. But she knew this was just the beginning. The architects had made contact, and humanity would never be the same. Dr. Walsh packed up his equipment with shaking hands. "Amy, I think we have just witnessed first contact with a species that could change the course of human history. But I have a feeling that the real test is just beginning." Amy looked at the now quiet fragments and wondered what price humanity would have to pay for this new knowledge. The architects had chosen them for something great, but greatness always came with danger. And somewhere out there, the Zephyrians were preparing to make sure humanity never reached its potential. Admiral Patricia Hayes arrived aboard the UES Horizon exactly 48 hours after Amy's discovery. The stern woman with gray hair and cold blue eyes commanded humanity's deep space forces with an iron fist. She had fought in every major battle against the Zephyrian Empire for the past 10 years. Her presence on the ship meant that the situation had reached the highest levels of military command. Amy found herself standing in a classified briefing room she had never seen before. The room was deep within the ship, far from the normal crew. Areas. Admiral Hayes sat across from her at a metal table, flanked by two officers Amy did not recognize. A holographic display showed star charts that were not in any database Amy had access to. "Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez," Admiral Hayes began, "what you discovered in that maintenance bay has implications that go far beyond a simple first contact situation. The fragments you found are not the first we have encountered." Amy felt her stomach drop. "Ma'am, are you saying that military command has known about this technology?" Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. "For 5 years now. The alien species you encountered through those fragments are called the architects. They are beings so advanced that they exist partially outside our normal understanding of space and time. They have been seeding human space with their technology, apparently testing our readiness for something much greater." The holographic display changed to show dozens of star systems throughout human space. Red dots marked locations where architect fragments had been discovered. Amy realized that the incidents she had found in the maintenance records were just a tiny fraction of the encounters. The architects have been watching both humanity and the Zephyrian Empire for decades. Admiral Hayes continued. They appear to be evaluating which species has the potential to evolve to the next level of consciousness. And they have chosen us. Amy struggled to process this information. But why keep it secret? Why not tell the fleet about this? One of the unknown officers, a woman with short black hair, spoke up. Because the war with the Zephyrians is not what we have told the crews. It is not about territory or resources. It is about evolutionary potential. The Zephyrians know that the architects have chosen humanity, and they are desperate to prevent us from reaching that potential. Admiral Hayes leaned forward. The Zephyrians have been systematically hunting down and destroying architect fragments wherever they find them. They believe that if they can prevent us from accessing the technology, they can convince the architects to choose them instead. Amy remembered Jake's visions and the strange dreams he had been having. The fragments in Morrison's wing were different from the others. They were more active, more responsive. What made them special? They were a test, Admiral Hayes said. The architects have been gradually increasing the complexity of the fragments they leave for us. The ones you found were designed to activate only when they encountered a human with the right kind of consciousness, someone who could understand their true purpose. The holographic display changed again, showing a secret facility on a distant planet. Amy could see scientists working with architect fragments, trying to understand their technology. But she also saw something else. Some of the scientists were connected to strange devices that seemed to be merging with their minds. We have been secretly studying captured architect fragments for years, Admiral Hayes explained. We call it the Architect Technology Integration Program. But every attempt to reverse engineer their technology has failed because the technology requires something that only certain humans possess. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of something? An intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics that borders on the supernatural, the black-haired officer said. The architects have been testing human consciousness to find individuals who can interface with their technology. The fragments in Morrison's wing were specifically designed to identify such individuals. Admiral Hayes stood up and walked you. The holographic display. Rodriguez, you passed the first stage of their test simply by recognizing what the fragments were. Your mind was able to process the quantum signatures in a way that most humans cannot. Morrison passed a different test when he was able to receive their communications. Amy realized what they were leading up to. You want me to join this program? The choice is yours, Admiral Hayes said. But you need to understand what is at stake. The architects are preparing to make full contact with humanity. When that happens, we will need individuals who can serve as bridges between human and architect consciousness. Without them, the integration process could destroy our species. The holographic display showed images of the failed test subjects. Amy saw men and women connected to architect technology, their minds overwhelmed by the power of the alien consciousness. Some had died instantly. Others had been left in permanent comas. 3 of our test subjects have died, Admiral Hayes admitted. Their minds could not handle the integration process. The architect technology does not just enhance human abilities. It fundamentally changes what it means to be human. Amy thought about her crew, her friends, and the life she had built aboard the U.E.'s Horizon. What would happen to my current assignment? You would be transferred to the classified program, the black-haired officer said. Your official records would show that you died in a training accident. To everyone you know, you would cease to exist. Amy felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. And if I refuse, Admiral Hayes returned to her seat, then you will return to your duties, but you will be monitored constantly. The knowledge you now possess makes you a security risk. And Rodriguez, there is something else you need to know. The holographic display showed long-range sensor readings. A massive fleet was moving toward their position. The ships were unlike anything in human or Zephyrian databases. They were sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. The Zephyrians have discovered our location, Admiral Hayes said. They know about the fragments you found, and they are coming to destroy them and everyone who has been exposed to them. They cannot risk allowing us to complete the integration process. Amy realized that the choice was no longer just about her future. It was about survival. How long do we have? The enemy fleet will arrive in 18 hours, Admiral Hayes said. Rodriguez, the fragments you found are the most advanced architect technology we have ever encountered. If we can successfully integrate with them, we might be able to defend against the Zephyrian attack. But we need someone who can interface with the technology. Amy looked at the images of the failed test subjects again. She thought about Jake Morrison and his strange dreams. She thought about the pulsing blue fragments and the way they had seemed to call to her consciousness. The architects had chosen humanity, but they had also chosen her specifically. "If I agree to this," Amy said, "will I still be me when it is?" Over? Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. No one who has successfully integrated with architect technology has been able to fully explain what the experience is like. They say it is like seeing the universe from a completely different perspective. Some describe it as becoming more than human." Amy made her decision. The fragments had been calling to her since the moment she first saw them. She could feel their presence even now, somewhere deep in her mind. The architects had chosen her for a reason, and she would not let humanity down. "I will do it," Amy said. "But I want Morrison to be part of the program too." The fragments responded to him as well. Admiral Hayes nodded. "We were hoping you would." "Say that. The integration process works better when multiple subjects are involved. Human consciousness seems to be naturally suited for collective experiences." As Amy left the briefing room, she knew that her life would never be the same. She was about to become something more than human, something that could bridge the gap between two species separated by millions of years of evolution. The architects had waited patiently for humanity to reach this point, and now the real test was about to begin. Amy stood in her private quarters, staring out at the stars through the small window. The weight of Admiral Hayes' revelation pressed down on her like a physical force. She had 12 hours to make a decision that would change not just her life, but possibly the fate of humanity itself. The integration process would begin as soon as she gave her final answer. She thought about the fragments in the maintenance bay, still pulsing with their blue light. Even now, she could feel them calling. To her consciousness, it was like a song just beyond the edge of hearing, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The architects had chosen her, but she still did not fully understand what that meant. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Walsh entered, looking older than she had ever seen him. His usually steady hands were shaking slightly. As he sat down across from her, "Amy, there are things about the program that Admiral Hayes did not tell you," he said quietly. "I have been part of it for 2 years now." Amy felt her heart skip a beat. "You have already gone through the integration process?" Dr. Walsh nodded, partially. "The technology does not just enhance human abilities. It connects you to something vast and ancient. I can see patterns in the universe that I never noticed before. I can understand alien technologies just by touching them, but there is a price." He rolled up his sleeve to show her his arm. Strange blue veins ran beneath his skin, pulsing with the same rhythm as the fragments. "The architect technology changes you at the cellular level. My DNA is no longer completely human. I age differently now. I think differently. Sometimes I have trouble relating to normal humans." Amy stared at the blue veins with fascination and horror. "Do you regret it?" "I do not know," Dr. Walsh said honestly. "The knowledge is incredible. I can see the mathematical beauty of the universe in ways that no human has ever seen before. But I also feel isolated from my own species. The other integrated subjects and I have more in common with each other than with normal humans." Amy walked to her window and looked out at the stars again. "What about the ones who died during the process?" Dr. Walsh was quiet for a moment. They were not ready. "The integration process requires the mind to let go of its human limitations. Those who tried to hold on to their old way of thinking were destroyed by the experience. The architect consciousness is too vast for a closed mind to contain." Amy thought about Jake Morrison and his strange dreams. "Has Morrison been told about this?" "He is being briefed now," Dr. Walsh said. "The fragments affected him differently and they affected you. He received their communications, but you understood their true nature. The integration process will be different for each of you. Amy sat down on her bed and put her head in her hands. Kevin, what if I am not strong enough? What if my mind breaks like the others? Dr. Walsh leaned forward. Amy, you have been working with alien technology for 15 years. Your mind is already adapted to thinking in non-human ways. That is why the fragments chose you. The architects do not make mistakes in their selections. A communication alert sounded from Amy's wall panel. Captain Harper's voice came through the speaker. All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation. Amy and Dr. Walsh hurried to the bridge, where they found the crew staring at the main display screen. Long-range sensors showed a massive fleet approaching their position. The ships were unlike anything Amy had ever seen. They were sleek and organic-looking, with hull patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. Zephyrian Fleet, Captain Harper announced. But these are not standard warships. Intelligence believes they are part of a special operations unit designed to hunt down architect technology. Commander Beck stepped forward. Captain, we are outnumbered 3-1. These ships are equipped with weapons we have never seen before. They can phase in and out of normal space, just like the architect fragments. Amy realized that the Zephyrians had been working with architect technology too. But instead of trying to integrate with it, they had been trying to weaponize it. The approaching fleet was proof that they had succeeded, at least partially. Jake Morrison appeared on the bridge, escorted by 2 security officers. He looked pale and shaken, but his eyes had a strange new intensity. The dreams are getting stronger, he told Amy. The architects are trying to warn us about something. The Zephyrians are not just here to destroy the fragments. They are here to capture us. Admiral Hayes' voice came through the communication system. All personnel involved in the Architect Technology Integration Program report to Lab 7 immediately. We are beginning the emergency protocol. Amy looked at Captain Harper, who nodded grimly. Go. If this technology can help us survive what is coming, then we have no choice. Amy and Jake were escorted to Lab 7, deep within the ship. The room was filled with equipment that Amy had never seen before. Architect fragments were arranged in complex patterns on metal tables. Scientists in protective suits were making final preparations for the fall. Integration process. Admiral Hayes met them at the entrance. The Zephyrian fleet will arrive in 6 hours. We need to complete the integration process before they get here, or humanity will lose its best chance at survival. Amy looked at the integration equipment with growing fear. It looked like a combination of human technology and alien artifacts. Cables and wires connected to devices that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The setup reminded her of the images she had seen of the failed test subjects. What exactly happens during the integration? Amy asked. Dr. Walsh, who had changed into a protective suit, answered her. The architect fragments will connect directly to your nervous system. Your consciousness will be temporarily merged with their collective knowledge. If your mind can handle the experience, you will emerge with enhanced abilities. If not, he did not need to finish the sentence. Amy understood the risks, but she also understood that humanity needed someone who could interface with the architect technology. The approaching Zephyrian fleet was proof that the war was about to enter a new phase. Jake Morrison stepped forward. I want to go first. The fragments have been communicating with me longer than anyone else. Maybe my mind is more prepared for this. Amy grabbed his arm. Jake, wait. What if something goes wrong? What if the process kills you? Jake smiled sadly. Then at least I will die trying to save humanity. Amy, I can feel the architects in my mind right now. They are not just offering us technology. They are offering us a chance to evolve into something greater than we are now. Admiral Hayes began the countdown. Integration process will begin in 30 minutes. All non-essential personnel clear the area. Amy watched as Jake was prepared for the procedure. Electrodes were attached to his head and chest. The architect. Fragments were placed in a circle around the integration chair. As the equipment powered up, the fragments began to pulse faster and brighter. Amy felt the familiar tingling sensation as the fragments called to her consciousness. She knew that, in a few hours, she would be connected to that alien network of knowledge. She would become something more than human, something that could help her species survive the coming war. The countdown reached 0, and Jake Morrison's integration with the architect technology began. Amy watched as his body convulsed, and his eyes rolled back. The fragments around him glowed brighter than ever before. In the distance, she could hear the sound of the ship's engines preparing for battle. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and Amy was about to become part of something far greater than she had ever imagined. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, just as Jake Morrison's integration process reached its critical phase. Amy watched from the observation window as his body arched in the integration chair, blue energy crackling around him like lightning. The architect fragments were responding to his consciousness. Their pulsing synchronized with his heartbeat. Dr. Walsh monitored the readings from his control station. Neural activity is off the charts, but his brain patterns are stabilizing. I think the integration is working. Amy felt the fragments calling to her even more strongly now. The alien technology seemed to recognize that the process had begun. She could sense vast intelligence reaching out across space and time, ancient minds that had waited millions of years for this moment. Admiral Hayes stood beside her at the observation window. Rodriguez, we are out of time. The Zephyrian ships are moving into attack formation. We need to begin your integration immediately. Amy nodded and moved toward the second integration chair. The medical team quickly attached the electrodes and sensors while she tried to calm her racing heart. She could see Jake's body beginning to relax as the blue energy around him stabilized. His eyes opened, and they were glowing with the same blue light as the fragments. Amy, Jake said, his voice somehow different, deeper and more resonant. I can see everything now. The architects are not just one species. They are a collective consciousness made up of dozens of evolved races. They have been waiting for humanity to reach this point for over 1,000 years. Amy felt the integration process begin as the fragments around her chair activated. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was like diving into an ocean of pure knowledge, her consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of her physical body. She could feel Jake's presence beside her, and beyond him, the vast network of architect consciousness. The first thing she understood was that time worked differently at this level of existence. The architects experienced past, present, and future simultaneously. They had already seen the outcome of the coming battle, but they could not interfere directly. Humanity had to choose its own path to evolution. Amy felt her consciousness merge with the ship's computer systems. She could see every circuit, every data stream, every quantum process happening throughout the UES horizon. The ship was no longer just a vessel to her. It was an extension of her own body, responding to her thoughts and intentions. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire, their weapons tearing through space with deadly precision. But Amy could see the attack coming before it happened. The quantum signatures of their weapons were visible to her enhanced perception. She reached out with her mind and began to manipulate the ship's defensive systems. The UES Horizon's shields flared to life with power levels that should have been impossible. Amy was channeling energy directly from the ship's quantum core, using principles of physics that human science had not yet discovered. The Zephyrian weapons struck the shields and were absorbed, their energy redirected back at the attacking ships. Jake's consciousness joined with hers. as they worked together to defend the ship. Amy realized that this was how the architect technology was meant to be used, not by individuals, but by groups of minds working in perfect harmony. Together, they could achieve things that no single being could accomplish alone. Captain Harper's voice came through the communication system. What is happening to our shields? The power readings are beyond anything our engines can produce. Amy spoke, her voice carrying the same resonant quality as Jake's. We are using the ship's quantum field to generate a defensive barrier. The Zephyrian weapons cannot penetrate it. The enemy fleet responded by launching boarding pods toward the UES horizon. Amy could see the Zephyrian soldiers inside, their minds focused on one goal: capture or destroy the humans who had integrated with Architect Technology. Amy and Jake shared a moment of understanding. The real battle would not be fought with weapons. It would be fought with consciousness itself. The Zephyrians had been exposed to Architect technology too, but they had tried to dominate it rather than integrate with it. Their approach had made them powerful, but it had also made them unstable. The boarding pods breached the ship's hull, and Zephyrian soldiers poured into the corridors. Amy felt their presence like a discordant note in the harmony of the ship's systems. She reached out with her enhanced abilities and began to turn the ship's environment against the invaders. The gravity in the corridors shifted, creating localized fields that crushed the Zephyrians' weapons and armor. The air itself became a weapon, forming dense barriers that the soldiers could not penetrate. Amy realized that she was manipulating matter at the quantum level, changing the fundamental properties of reality itself. A group of Zephyrian soldiers reached the maintenance bay where Amy's body sat in the integration chair. They moved with deadly purpose, their alien weapons charged and ready. But Amy was no longer limited by her physical form. Her consciousness flowed through the ship's systems like water through a river. The maintenance bay doors sealed shut, trapping the soldiers. Inside, Amy manipulated the atmospheric controls, creating a localized field that neutralized their weapons. The Zephyrians found themselves unable to move as the gravity around them increased to crushing levels. You cannot stop the inevitable. One of the soldiers spoke in broken human language. The architects will choose us. We are the stronger species. Amy felt pity for the alien soldiers. Through her enhanced perception, she could see that they had been exposed to corrupted architect technology. Their minds were filled with artificial enhancements that made them powerful, but also drove them toward madness. They had tried to take the gifts of the architects by force, not understanding that true evolution could only come through willing integration. Jake's consciousness touched hers again. Amy, I can see the Zephyrian command ship. They have architect fragments on board, but they are using them as weapons. We need to stop them before they destroy themselves and take us with them. Amy expanded her awareness beyond the UE's horizon, reaching out toward the enemy fleet. She could feel the unstable quantum fields around the Zephyrian ships. Their corrupted use of architect technology was creating dangerous tears in space-time itself. Working together, Amy and Jake began to stabilize the quantum fields around the enemy ships. It was delicate work, requiring them to think in ways that no human had ever thought before. They had to balance the chaotic energy of the corrupted fragments while protecting both fleets from the resulting quantum storms. The process took hours, but gradually the dangerous fields began to calm. The Zephyrian ships found their weapon systems failing as the corrupted fragments were neutralized. Without their stolen technology, they were no match for the enhanced capabilities of the UES horizon. Admiral Hayes entered the maintenance bay. As the last of the Zephyrian soldiers were secured, Rodriguez Morrison, what is your status? Amy opened her eyes, the blue glow fading as she returned to normal consciousness. But she knew she would never be truly normal again. The integration had changed her at the most fundamental level. She could still feel the vast network of architect consciousness at the edge of her awareness, waiting for her to rejoin them. "The immediate threat is over," Amy said. "But Admiral, this is just the beginning. The architects are preparing for full contact with humanity. They want to guide us to the next stage of evolution." Jake sat up in his chair, his own eyes returning to their normal color. "The Zephyrians will keep coming until they destroy themselves completely. Their approach to the architect technology is unsustainable. We need to help them find a better way." Dr. Walsh approached them with his scanner, taking readings of their transformed physiology. "The integration appears to have been successful. Your neural patterns show permanent changes, but they are stable. You have both evolved beyond baseline human consciousness." Amy stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. She could see them differently now, not just as distant points of light, but as part of a vast interconnected web of consciousness that spanned the galaxy. The architects were out there, waiting patiently for humanity to join them in their eternal journey of discovery and growth. "What happens now?" Jake asked. Admiral Hayes smiled for the first time since her arrival. "Now we prepare humanity for the next phase of our evolution. The architects have given us the tools we need to survive and thrive among THE stars. But the choice of how to use those tools is ours to make." Amy felt the fragments in the maintenance bay pulse one final time before going dormant. Their work was done. They had successfully identified and prepared the first human candidates for integration with architect technology. But Amy knew that she and Jake were just the beginning. Humanity would need many more integrated individuals to successfully navigate the challenges ahead. The war with the Zephyrians was far from over, but humanity now had weapons that could match their corrupted technology. More importantly, they had individuals who could serve as bridges between human and architect consciousness. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Amy felt hopeful about humanity's chances. As she looked out at the stars, Amy understood that her discovery in the maintenance bay had changed everything. The damaged fighter wing had led to first contact with one of the most ancient and powerful species in the galaxy. The architects had been waiting for humanity to reach this point for over 1,000 years, and now the real journey could begin. The fragments had been more than just alien technology. They had been a gift, invitation to join a community of consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions and countless worlds. Amy had accepted that invitation, and in doing so, she had helped secure humanity's place among the stars. The UE Horizon continued its journey through space, but now it carried passengers who were no longer entirely human. They were something new, something that bridged the gap between two very different forms of consciousness. The architects had chosen wisely, and humanity was finally ready to claim its destiny among the galaxies.